Willowbend Estates was the kind of subdivision that looked like it had been designed by someone who genuinely loved the idea of a neighborhood-wide, tree-lined streets, neat sidewalks, driveways with basketball hoops and chalk drawings, yards where kids ran barefoot in July without anyone thinking twice about it. It was the kind of place where people still waved from their porches and left zucchini on each other's doorsteps in August because the garden had gone rogue again. It was, in short, the kind of neighborhood that made you believe the American suburb could be a decent place to raise a family. And then there was Diane Prescott. Diane Prescott was 56 years old, a retired event planner, and the president of the Willowbend Estates Homeowners Association. She had run unopposed for 6 consecutive terms, not because she was beloved, but because nobody else wanted the job badly enough to fight her for it. She had the energy of someone who had once been told the word no as a child and never quite recovered from the insult. She organized, she ruled, she inspected, and she documented. And she had elevated all 4 of these activities to something approaching an art form. Her house was the crown jewel of Willowbend. Dr. Beige Georgian colonial with white shutters, a brick-paved walkway, and flower boxes maintained with the precision of a surgical team. In the summers she held what she called community standards reviews, which everyone else called Diane walking around with a clipboard and a disapproving expression. She had once issued a formal HOA violation to the Garfield family at number 22 because their garden gnome was, in her assessment, oriented at an angle, inconsistent with aesthetic harmony. The violation notice included a diagram. Ryan and Megan Calloway had moved to Willowbend Estates 3 years ago. Ryan was 34, a project manager at a logistics company in Cincinnati. Megan was 32, a speech therapist who ran her own small practice out of their spare bedroom. They were low-drama people, the kind who returned their shopping carts, tipped generously, and apologized even when something wasn't their fault. They had chosen Willowbend because of the school district and the park around the corner, and the fact that their son, Taltila, could ride his little blue bike on the sidewalk without either of them having a heart attack. Tyla Calloway was 5 years old, gap-toothed and obsessed with dinosaurs and anything with wheels. He was the kind of kid who made friends by walking up to other children and saying, with complete guileless confidence, "I like your shoes. Do you want to be my friend?" He had not yet encountered a child who said no to this approach. He had a laugh like a squeaky door hinge, and he used it constantly, usually at volume. And Ryan and Megan had long since stopped apologizing for it because it was the best sound in the world. Tyler's 5th birthday fell on a Saturday in late September, one of those perfect Ohio autumn days that smells like leaves and sounds like football games in the distance. Megan had been planning the party for 6 weeks. The theme was dinosaurs, naturally. She had ordered a custom cake from the bakery on Elm Street, the one with the fondant T-Rex, whose tiny arms Megan had specifically requested be historically proportionate. There were green and gold streamers, a pin the Talano Triceratops poster, and a prize table loaded with dinosaur figurines wrapped in tissue paper. The party was to be held in the Calloway backyard, which was large and flat and perfect for exactly this kind of event. Megan had set up 6 folding tables with paper dinosaur print tablecloths, a long food table along the fence, and in the center of it all, the showpiece, the thing that had taken Ryan 45 minutes to assemble. The night before, a decorative cart tray on wrought iron wheels that Megan had found at a home goods store. It was a beautiful thing, tiered, sturdy, about 4 feet tall, loaded on its top tier with the gift bags for the kids, and on its lower tier with extra juice boxers and napkins. It was purely decorative and purely wonderful, and Tyler had insisted on calling it the treasure cart from the moment he first saw it, which sealed its place in the party's mythology forever. 14 children were coming, parents from the neighborhood, from Tyler's preschool class, from the soccer league he'd joined that fall. Megan had made a playlist. Ryan had inflated 47 balloons, personally, with a hand pump, a fact he intended to bring up for at least 3 months. The first guests arrived at 2 o'clock. By 2:15 the backyard was alive with exactly the kind of beautiful chaos that only exists at 5-year-old birthday parties. Shrieking, running, the thud of small feet on grass, negotiations over whose turn it was on the slide, and Tyler, at the center of all of it, wearing a paper dinosaur crown that Megan had made, laughing that squeaky hinge laugh of his at full volume. It was, by any measure, a perfect afternoon. Diane Prescott arrived at 2:47 p.m. She had not been invited. She came through the side gate, the one that opened from the alley, without knocking, without calling ahead, without any of the social niceties that most human beings considered baseline requirements before entering another person's private property. She was wearing her HOA lanyard and carrying her clipboard, and her expression had the particular set to it that the residents of Willowbend Estates had learned to recognize as the face she wore when she had found something wrong and was prepared to be unreasonable about it for as long as necessary. She had, apparently, driven past the house earlier in the day and observed what she described in her own words. Later, as an unauthorized commercial-style vendor cart positioned in visible proximity to the residential fence line, which she believed was in potential violation of subsection 9.3a of the Willow Bend Estates Community Standards Manual, which prohibited the display of commercial equipment in residential outdoor spaces without prior written HOA approval. The treasure cart. Diane Prescott had come to a 5-year-old's birthday party to cite a decorative cart tray. Megan saw her first. It was at the food table, cutting the dinosaur cake into slices precise enough to prevent the inevitable argument over who got the piece with the T-Rex on it. When she caught a flash of clipboard and lanyard in her peripheral vision, she looked up, her hands went still on the cake knife. She had the distinct, nauseating experience of a person who has spent 6 weeks carefully constructing a perfect day watching that day begin to tip at its edges. Diane was already moving through the yard with the purposeful stride of a woman who had never once considered that her presence might be unwelcome. Several of the parents near the fence turned to watch her. One of the children, a small girl in a purple dinosaur shirt, stopped mid-run to stare at the clipboard. "Miga," Diane said, reaching the food table. She did not say hello. She did not look at the cake, or the streamers, or the children, or Tyler, who was 10 feet away attempting to teach his friend Jackson the correct roaring technique for a velociraptor. She looked at the treasure cart. "That cart needs to come down. It's a party cart," Megan said. She kept her voice level with the effort of someone squeezing a stress ball into powder. "It holds the gift bags. Tyler calls it the treasure cart. It is in violation of subsection 9.3a, Diane said. Opening her clipboard to a tabbed page, she had a tabbed page, and turning it toward Megan, commercial-style vendor equipment in residential outdoor spaces. "If you'd submitted a request 30 days in advance, we could have Diane," Megan said, very quietly. "It is my son's 5th birthday party. The rules apply regardless if it is a cart from Home Goods. It costs $48. It has gift bags on it." The visual profile of Ryan had come around from the other side of the yard by then. Having heard the particular flatness in Megan's voice that told him something was wrong, he was carrying a paper plate with 2 brownie bites on it that he had been bringing to Megan as a birthday party for a parent's treat. He stopped when he saw Diane. He looked at the clipboard. He looked at Megan. He set the brownie bites down with the slow deliberateness of a man putting down a weapon he decided not to use. "What's happening?" he asked. "Ms. Prescott is here about the cart," Megan said. Ryan looked at the treasure cart. It stood in its usual spot, gift bags gleaming in the afternoon light, juice boxers peeking out from the lower tier. A balloon tied to one of its wrought iron handles bobbed gently in the breeze. It looked, as it always looked, exactly like what it was. "A party cart at a 5-year-old birthday party," Diane Ryan said. "Candace, wait. We have 14 kids here. I've been trying to reach you both by certified mail since Tuesday. I didn't receive any certified mail. A notice was left with your mail carrier on." "Diane," Ryan's voice had dropped a register. "There are children here. Can this please wait until Monday?" Diane drew herself up. She had the posture of someone who had been told, at some formative moment in their life, that yielding was the same as losing, and had never found a reason to revise that belief. The community standards don't pause for. What happened next took approximately 4 seconds and felt like 4 minutes. Tylee had noticed the woman with the clipboard. He had not noticed her in any alarmed way. Tylee noticed everything, in the cheerful, cataloging way of a who found all adults interesting, until proven otherwise. He had been moving toward the treasure cart anyway, because it was time, in his carefully laid party plans, to begin distributing the gift bags. This had been his official job. He had been told it was his official job. He took official jobs very seriously. He came at the cart from the left side, running in that particular 5-year-old way, where the legs move faster than the torso can catch up. Arms pumping, dinosaur crown-esque, he reached for the handle of the cart's upper tier to slow himself down. Diane, standing immediately behind the cart, and gesturing with her clipboard toward the cart's wheelbase to illustrate some point about its visual profile, stepped back. At precisely that moment, she stepped onto Tyler's foot. Tyler yelped a short, startled, genuinely pained yelp, and lurched forward. His hands caught the cart's upper tier and pulled it sideways. The cart, which was on wheels, rolled. Diane grabbed for it. The clipboard struck the cart's side rail with a sharp metallic clang. The cart's upper tier, loaded with 14 gift bags, tipped. The gift bags went everywhere, and the cart's decorative top rail, wrought iron, ornamental, blunt, swung as the whole thing listed, and caught Tyler on the left shoulder. Not hard. Not hard enough to break anything. Not hard enough to leave more than a bruise. But hard enough that Tyler, who had been startled and stepped on and pulled off balance in the space of 2 seconds, sat down hard on the grass and burst into tears. The backyard went silent. 14 children, 12 adults, and 1 birthday party all stopped at the same moment. The only sounds were Tyler crying and a balloon, recently untethered from the cart's handle, drifting up into the clear September sky. Megan was moving before Tyler hit the ground. She covered the 10 feet between the food table and her son in the way that only parents move, not running exactly, but with a speed and directness that bypasses all normal human decision-making and operates purely on instinct. She was on her knees, in the grass beside Tyler before the last gift bag had stopped rolling. Her hands on his shoulders, her voice already doing the low, steady, "It's okay. I've got you" thing that Tyler had heard his whole life and knew meant exactly what it said. "Tyler, hey, look at me, look at mommy." Tyler looked at her. His face was red and wet and utterly betrayed by the universe. His dinosaur crown had fallen off. "The treasure cart fell," he said, which was so precisely 5-year-old in its summation of the situation that Megan almost laughed. "Despite everything, I know, babe. Are you okay? Can you move your arm?" Tyler moved his arm. He winced, but it moved. Megan ran her hands along his shoulder. No deformity, no grinding, just the hot tenderness of a fresh bruise. She breathed. Ryan was at Diane's side in 3 steps. He was not a man who lost his temper often or loudly. His co-workers at the logistics firm described him as steady. His friends called him the calm one. He had once talked down a very agitated client on a conference call for 45 minutes without raising his voice once. And afterward his supervisor had sent him a gift card for a steakhouse. He was, by every measure, a composed person. He was not composed right now. "My son," he said. His voice was very quiet. The quietness was the alarming part. "Is sitting on the ground crying at his birthday party because of you." Diane had the clipboard pressed to her chest, which was rising and falling faster than it had been before. To her credit, the only credit available, she looked genuinely shaken. Her expression had lost the particular bureaucratic confidence it usually wore and replaced it with something more complicated. Not remorse exactly, but the look of someone whose plan has gone somewhere unexpected and hasn't yet figured out the next move. "It was an accident," she said. "I stepped back and he ran into—" "You were in our yard," Ryan said. "You were not invited? You came through our gate without permission to cite us for a home goods cart at our 5-year-old's birthday party? And now my son is crying in the grass." "The subsection? I don't want to hear about the subsection, Diane." The other parents were watching. All of them. Nobody was looking at the kids anymore. The children had mostly gathered in a loose, wide-eyed cluster near the slide, sensing, the way children always sense these things, that something significant was happening among the adults. Jackson's mother, a compact, direct woman named Phoebe Marsh, who Ryan and Megan had known from the school pickup line for 2 years, stepped forward. "Did she just hurt Tyler?" Phoebe asked. "Not to Diane?" "To Ryan. The cart hit him," Ryan said, "because she stepped on him and grabbed the cart." Phoebe turned to look at Diane with an expression that would have stripped the enamel off a countertop. Another parent, Tom Briggs, from 2 streets over, whose daughter Lily was Tyler's closest friend from soccer, said, to no one in particular, and everyone in general, "Is this the HOA lady?" "Yes," said 3 people simultaneously. Diane opened her clipboard again. It was, in retrospect, the wrong move. Something about the gesture, the reflex to reach for the document, to restore the official framework, to reestablish authority through paperwork in the middle of a 5-year-old's birthday party while the birthday boy sat crying in the grass. Something about it broke the room open. "Put the clipboard down," said Phoebe Marsh. "I am a duly elected." "Put the clipboard down and look at that child," Phoebe said. Her voice was not loud. It was the voice of a woman who had also spent years managing people and situations and knew exactly how much volume was required to be completely unmistakable. He stepped on a 5-year-old at his birthday party, and he has been looking forward to for probably a month. "You did that? Look at him?" Diane looked at Tyler. Tyler was standing now, pressed against Megan's side, his dinosaur crown back on his head at a determined angle, his face still tear-streaked, watching Diane with the uncomplicated, unself-conscious gaze of a child who hasn't yet learned to disguise what he thinks about a person. He said, "He knocked down the treasure cart." The statement landed in the silence of the backyard, like a stone in still water. Ryan bent down, picked up the nearest gift bag, and began quietly collecting the rest from the grass. Tom Briggs moved to help him without being asked. Phoebe Marsh put her arm around Megan's shoulders. Diane stood with her clipboard and her lanyard and her tab subsection page, and for the first time in 6 consecutive HOA terms, she appeared to have nothing to say. "Think," Ryan said, straightening up with an armful of gift bags, "that you should leave our yard now, Diane. And I think on Monday morning I'm going to be making some phone calls." He said it without heat. He said it the way a man states a fact that has already been decided. Diane left through the same side gate she had entered. Nobody watched her go. They were all already looking at Tyler, who had spotted the untethered balloon drifting at the far edge of the yard and was pointing at it with the focused urgency of someone who has identified the next item of business. "Daddy," he said, "the balloon is escaping." Ryan made the phone calls on Monday morning, as promised. The first was to a neighbor named Karl Ostrowski, who had lived on Willow Bend Drive for 14 years and served 1 term on the HOA board before resigning in 2019 with a written statement that he had kept, because Karl was that kind of man. Karl answered on the second ring. Ryan explained what had happened at Tyler's party. There was a long pause. "How hurt is Tyler?" Karl asked. "Bruised shoulder. He's fine. He asked us to keep the treasure cart." "Of course he did," Karl said. "I've been waiting for someone to do this for 3 years. Tell me what you need." The second call was to a woman named Jennifer Alcott, an attorney in Westerville who specialized in community association law and whose name Ryan had gotten from a Google search, followed by 3 increasingly specific reviews. Jennifer listened to a 15-minute summary of Diane's 6-year tenure, the Saturday incident, and the documentation Ryan had photographed with his phone, the gate, the scattered gift bags, the subsection 9.3a notice, Tyler's bruised shoulder, and asked a series of very organized questions. Has she entered your property without permission before? Jennifer asked. Not that I can prove. Saturday is the first time I have it on 3 parents' phones. 3 parents recorded it. Phoebe Marsh, Tom Briggs, and a woman named Donna Yee, who I didn't even realize was filming until she texted me. The video Sunday morning. Jennifer asked for the video. The third call was to the Ohio Department of Commerce's Community Association Oversight Line, where Ryan filed an initial inquiry into whether the Willow Bend Estates HOA had properly registered its leadership transitions, its fine-leaving procedures, and its enforcement actions with the state, a requirement, Jennifer had explained, that many HOAs quietly failed to meet and which opened them to formal review. The fourth call was to Phoebe Marsh, who had already, without being asked, written a 3-paragraph statement about what she witnessed on Saturday and sent it to Ryan by email Sunday night with the subject line, "Happy to testify if needed." Ryan sat back in his chair after that fourth call and looked out the window at the backyard, where the treasure cart stood in its usual spot, righted, restocked, its balloon replaced, and Tyler was pedaling his blue bike in circles on the patio with the focused intensity of someone training for a championship. The formal complaint to the HOA's registered agent arrived by certified mail on Wednesday. It cited the unauthorized entry onto private residential property, the physical incident involving a minor, the pattern of bad faith enforcement, and the failure to follow Ohio state procedures for HOA fine issuance. It was 7 pages long, and had Jennifer Alcott's letterhead at the top. The complaint also included Donna Yee's video. Donna's footage was 53 seconds long. It captured, with the particular clarity of a modern smartphone camera, Diane entering through the side gate, the exchange at the food table, Tyler running toward the cart, Diane stepping back, the cart tipping, and Tyler sitting in the grass, crying. It captured, with equal clarity, Tyler looking up at Diane and saying, "You knocked down the treasure cart," in a voice of 5-year-old moral authority that, when Megan watched it the first time, made her cover her mouth with both hands. The video was not posted publicly. Jennifer had advised against it, but it was submitted as evidence. And the HOA is registered agent, a property management company in Columbus that had been quietly uncomfortable with Diane's tenure for at least 2 years. According to Carl, reviewed it within 4 hours and requested an emergency meeting of the full board. Diane did not attend the emergency meeting. She submitted a written statement describing the incident as a misunderstanding arising from her conscientious enforcement of community standards, and noting that the cart in question had indeed been in potential violation of subsection 9.3a. The board, after reviewing the video, Jennifer's letter, Carl's written account, and statements from Phoebe Marsh, Tom Briggs, and Donna Yee, voted 4-1 to place Diane on administrative leave from her HOA duties, pending a full resident review. The resident review was held on a Thursday evening in the Willow Bend Estates community room, which had a maximum capacity of 30 people and had 41 show up. Ryan and Megan sat in the third row. Tyler was home with Megan's mother, who had driven down from Dayton specifically for the occasion and was at that moment allowing Tyler to eat cereal for dinner and watch 2 consecutive episodes of his dinosaur cartoon, which was in Grandma's assessment exactly what the week called for. 11 residents spoke during the public comment period. Not all of them had specific incidents. Some had only general impressions, a sense of being watched, of operating under constant low-grade surveillance. But 4 of them had documented encounters. The no orientation notice, a fine levied for wind chimes that were never in the rulebook, a parking violation that turned out to apply to a guest who had parked for 30 minutes during a funeral. And Carl Ostrovsky read his 2019 resignation statement aloud, in full, which took 4 minutes and received a sustained silence when he finished. That was the most eloquent response possible. The board voted to remove Diane Prescott from the president say. The vote was 33-5. Diane did not appeal. A new president was elected 6 weeks later. A soft-spoken retired engineer named Bob Hensley, who lived on the quieter end of the subdivision, and whose sole campaign promise was that he would not own a clipboard. He won in a landslide. Bob's first official act was to distribute to every household in Willow Bend Estates a 1-page summary of actual Ohio HOA, a resident rights, and a clear statement that private property would not be entered without permission, and that enforcement actions would be conducted only in writing and only for violations that appeared specifically and clearly in the rulebook. His second official act was to formally strike subsection 9.3a from the Community Standards Manual, on the grounds that it was vague, unenforceable, and had been used in bad faith. This decision was unanimous. On the Saturday following Bob's election, Tyler Calloway rode his blue bike down Willow Bend Drive with his dinosaur crown on his head. He wore it most weekends now. A habit Megan had decided not to discourage, and waved at Bob Hensley, who was sitting on his porch reading a book and waved back. The treasure cart stood in the Calloway backyard, its balloon replaced with a new one in orange, Tyler's current favorite color. It held, at present, 3 juice boxers, a half-eaten bag of dinosaur gummies, and a small plastic stegosaurus